Hi, my name is Mario with Mario's Math Tutoring, and in this video what I want to do is I want to talk to you about how you can help your child be better at math. So this is going to be a little bit longer video. Get a cup of tea, pull up a seat. Let's just have a conversation here. I just want to share with you, after my many years of tutoring math, just some ideas that I have about how you as a parent can help your child do better in math. I mean, we all want our kids to succeed. We all want them to go on to do wonderful things. And math is one of those things that some students love and some students they just have to get through. And what I want to share with you are just some ways that can help make that process easier and better. So I've written some things down. I thought we could go through these just one by one. Just give you some ideas to think about whether your student is in middle school or they're in high school or maybe they're in elementary school and they're just getting started with math. These are some things to kind of pay attention to, and the more of them that you can implement, they can create a cumulative effect, kind of a synergistic effect, a snowball effect if you will, to help your child move forward and do better. So let's go through them. Some of them are just one little pointer, some we can talk about more in depth. But again, just pull up a chair, let's have a little fireside chat, just talking about how to help your child as a parent and what you can do to make math better for them. So the first thing really has to do with the attitude that your child brings to math. So some students, for whatever reason, they get off to a bad start, they have a bad attitude, maybe they just feel really negative, or they just decide that they're not good at math or that they don't like math. So what you want to try to do is you want to try to foster a positive attitude in your child towards math, whether it's just helping them to shift the way that they look at it, that it's not that they're bad at math, that it's strictly a neutral sort of thing, that math is a tool that they can use to help them. And if they're into sports, you can show them how it relates to their sports, or if it's something that they're involved with music, how it relates to music, or they're interested in building things and so on. So you want to try to change that attitude, because that's something that's just internal. I've worked with students before where they're doing the math, but they're doing it kind of begrudgingly, and I think as long as they have that internal resistance, it's going to make learning math that much more difficult. So let's go on to the next one. So the next thing is you want to get involved with your teacher. You want to engage the help of your student's teacher. So you want to let them know that that you're there, that you're a parent, and that you want to communicate with the teacher. Now, teachers are really busy, as you can imagine, but that's not an excuse. But you want to let your teacher, of your child, know that if there's something that's coming up, that they're struggling, that here's my phone number, here's my email, text me, call me. And what you might want to do is once a week or maybe every couple weeks, just check in with your teacher. Now, a lot of teachers are putting grades online now, so you can monitor a little bit more closely how your child's doing, and you can catch it before they get really far behind, and it makes it more difficult for them to catch up. So you don't want to create a bad where you're constantly bugging the teacher, but you want to be there where your teacher knows that you're involved with your child's learning, and that you're going to want to have some regular updates from them. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about, the next thing, is getting enough sleep. So a lot of children, they're just not getting enough sleep. I mean, especially young kids, they need more sleep than we as adults do. And I know some tutors, they won't even work with kids unless they're getting a minimum number of hours of sleep. It just gets exponentially more difficult to learn and to do math like when you're really tired. And part of that's the technology. They say that the light coming from all these devices, whether it's the cell phones or the computers or all these different devices, that the light is keeping the kids awake. It's waking their brains up. Now, I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but it's something to pay attention to and maybe see, are your kids getting enough rest, and is it good quality rest? So the next thing I want to talk about is to encourage your child to take an active role in their own learning. In the beginning, when children are young, they need that structure from their parents, I believe, to help them get on the right tracks, establish good habits so that they can be good in math and in all their subjects, and just develop good study habits. But at some point, you want them to take ownership of their of their learning. So if you're constantly hounding them, They're just doing it because you want them to do it. But if you can, foster like a sense of, what's the word? Foster a sense of, independence, foster a sense of satisfaction and taking ownership of their own learning. That's something that will serve them as they go on in school and as they go on in life, that they're taking responsibility. They have the joy of succeeding and learning from when they have little setbacks and failures, but they're owning it. So let's go on to another topic, the study environment. So you might want to look at, does your child have a place where they can study? I mean, is it maybe just a little corner? Do they have their own desk? Is there a table? Is there a room? Is there just some kind of a space that's clear, uncluttered, quiet, where they can focus, and they can focus on developing that habit of studying and doing their work. So when kids are young, they might not necessarily have a designated space. They just do it at the kitchen table. But as they get older, it might be good to set aside a place that they can study that's quiet. So that's just another suggestion you might want to take a look at. So another thing I want to talk about is the fundamentals of math. So math is one of those subjects that's cumulative. It builds on itself. We just can't get around it. I mean, as you want to do more and more complicated math, you have to have the basics down. If you don't have the basics, it's going to be difficult to move forward. So you really want, at the very beginning, if your child is in elementary school, you want to make sure that they're learning those facts, and you want to test them and quiz them and encourage them to really master them. So whether that's multiplication tables, getting them a stack of multiplication cards and practicing with them, quizzing them, or just even knowing their addition and subtraction facts. You don't want the student to get too dependent on the calculator too early, where they don't have that basic number sense that will serve them their entire life. They don't know the difference between 2,000 and 837. They don't have a sense of what those numbers are, how they relate to each other. You want them to develop that number sense, and some of that comes from really knowing those basic facts in the beginning, learning estimating techniques, working with fractions, decimals, percents. You want to master those fundamentals. I found that when I've shown students these little basic techniques like of mental math, their confidence just goes way up. Their ability to do calculations increases. They get a lot faster, and it just makes math a lot more enjoyable. They feel like they're confident in math. I'll show you a basic technique right now, just if you're interested. Like, say you want to multiply larger numbers. Like, say you want to multiply like 8 times 26, right? So here's just a basic technique. So 26 is really 20 plus 6, right? So what you can do is you just say 8 times 2 is 16, and you add the 0. Okay, so that's 160. And then you can do 8 times 6, which is 48. And then you just have to add those two numbers in your head. So you say, okay, 160 and 48, okay, that's 208. You can do all that without writing it down after a little while. And you can show your child how to do that. It'll amaze their friends. It'll make their math a lot quicker, and they'll just feel like a sense of like, hey, I've got this unique ability that before I thought only a calculator could do. So little things like that can make a big difference in catapulting your student success. So let's keep going. I hope you're enjoying these tips. Go ahead and write them down and just implement them. You don't have to do all of them, but if you do some of them, it's going to be cumulative and it's going to add up. So another thing I want to talk about is some of the curriculums. So some of the curriculums your child might be in, some of these schools, they use thematic learning. So they'll do a project and they'll involve science and math and English and all different areas, okay? And they'll try to show the applicability of all these things in real life, which I think is really great, okay? Because the kids are excited about it, and it encourages them to keep learning. But sometimes where these fall short is there's not enough repetition, there's not enough reinforcement of some of the basic math concepts that they're learning. So if your child is in this type of a learning environment, you may want to reinforce some of those basic skills that they're learning through that thematic learning, so that they get that foundation and they have that memorization of the basic skills that they need. Conversely, if all your child does is do like problem after problem after problem, and it has no connection with the real world, you're going to want to introduce some story problems and show them how it relates to real life. So I think there's a balance there. Some curriculums have swung a little bit too far, in my opinion, one side than the other side. So you want to try to balance it out to help your child. So the other thing I want to talk about is making math a priority. So it's like eating your vegetables. Like, you know, when you're a little kid, sometimes kids don't like eating vegetables. You say, hey, eat your vegetables first, then you can eat this delicious item, you know, next. And it's a way of, hey, let's do the important things that are going to build your health, say for example, and then, you know, you can go ahead and do the things that maybe are more enjoyable for you. So in terms of math, you know, you want to prioritize math. If it's something you don't like, no problem. Do it first while you're fresh, you're focused, get it done, move on to the other, you know, things that you want to study, okay? And so you want to do math, you know, every day, even if you don't have homework. You know, a lot of times students say, oh, I don't have any homework. Well, you want to spend some time studying. You want to spend some time just going over problems. Go ahead and take the weekend off and then get right back to it, you know, during the week. Math is one of those core subjects, reading, writing, arithmetic, right? The 3 R's they used to say. It's a core subject and it's something that you need. You can't learn it and then forget it. So let's go on to some other topics. So, you know, the other thing I was going to tell you about is just making sure that your child is involved in the classroom. So whether they're, you know, you don't want them sitting in the back of the classroom where they can't see the board, they're distracted, they're not involved in the class. If possible, see if, you know, if they can get a seat that's near the blackboard, near the whiteboard, near the front of the classroom. Make sure that your child's asking questions. And if they're struggling, you know, that they go in to see their teacher, whether it's before school, after school, during the lunch hour, ask a question right before class or, you know, right after class or in the middle of class. You know, you want your child to get involved. Now, some students are shy. You might want to think about, you know, having them find a study partner. So maybe it's a friend, maybe they get together, you know, once a week to study and quiz each other and just make it kind of a fun thing. You know, maybe you can do something like put one of these big whiteboards on your wall and have your kids, you know, interact with the whiteboard, or maybe you can, they have blackboard paint where you can actually paint a whole wall and it's like a chalkboard, and, you know, get some chalk and your kids can go crazy and you know, do the math with their friends on the board and play classroom, you know, that kind of thing. So think of ways to make math interesting for your kids so that they can, you know, enjoy doing it and they can be, you know, they can be more excited about it. Now this technique is a technique that I'm very fond of. I remember one time a teacher mentioned this to me and I was like, you got to be crazy. They wanted us to look ahead at the next section before we actually got into that section. So actually, you know, look ahead, preview, see what's coming up, skim it, look at the important concepts, and so when it comes up in class, you know, you're ready for it. You've already been primed, your mind has already created a space for that new information to come in so that you know what to do with it. You just have to refine what you've already learned a little bit on your own, you know, in the classroom. So this is a good technique. If your child is always trying to play catch up, they're never quite there, it seems like the test comes before they've mastered the material, try to flip the script, you know, where they're just one step ahead, you know, half step ahead, and so then it's like they're not playing catch up, they're actually a little bit ahead of the game and they can build on what they're already you know, creating space for in their mind for what's coming up, and they're not always playing that catch up game. So I'm a professional tutor, I work with students all the time. You know, if your student's struggling, you might want to see about getting a tutor. There's all different kinds of tutors. Some tutors, you know, just are, you know, volunteers. They maybe work at the National Honor Society and they just want to help, you know, the students in their school. You might want to look at that. You might want to look at college students. Sometimes are looking to help out or mentor some young kids. Or you might want to get a professional tutor to help your child. So everybody's looking for a little bit something different, but tutoring is definitely an option. I just thought I would mention that as well. So basically we've gone over some different you know, topics here about how to help your child with math. I hope you found the ideas helpful. You know, if you have some other ideas, you know, go ahead and send me an email or comment on this video. But get involved with your child's learning early, and again, try to help them in all these different ways we discuss. I hope what I've offered you is helpful, and I'll see you in some of the future videos.